Hey, welcome everyone. I'm Dario De Barbieri, Chief Marketing Officer at HCLSoftware. Today we have a very exciting conversation with two of the fastest and best drivers in Formula One, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Racing, it's more than just Formula One cars and drivers, right? It's about precision, it's about technology, and yes, ultimately software. At HCLSoftware, we're very, very proud to be a Ferrari partner. And so today we're going to take you through a few unusual questions about technology and software. So let's go with some of the questions. When you drive a Formula One car, it's all about precision engineering, right? We know engineering is behind everything that you do. But the same really goes for software nowadays. How do you think that software helps you perform and impact your performance on and off track?
Well, firstly, I mean, ultimately it comes down to natural ability, but you have to, today the technology is so advanced, security and development of software and applications is highly relevant to develop and maintain high standards of quality. And that's really why we rely on cutting edge technology like HCLSoftware to develop and safeguard it.
Yeah, and it's not just during the race. Application development and software security is essential across the entire operation at an enterprise level, car development and race strategy. And the trust in the technology obviously is what allows us to focus purely on driving.
The cars, if I go 20 years ago, it was purely mechanics and the driver, right? And now, most recently, technology is around the car, almost everywhere in the car. So you have a lot of systems supporting you, right? How important are those applications now? From the time that you start simulation all the way to the racing day?
It's incredibly important. I think we don't see it when you see the car driving in circles, but there's so much technology in the background, and it's basically the backbone of everything we do. From simulating races in the factory to prepare the races to real-time collaboration on track days. And yeah, technology definitely pushes us to be smarter and faster.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you wouldn't believe how much work goes on in the background, building up to a Grand Prix and during a Grand Prix. The amount that's downloaded, the amount of software, amount of different programs that you're using to analyze absolutely, the heartbeat basically of the car. Motorsports isn't just about drivers and cars anymore. It's about the high-tech ecosystem that we're operating in. And nowadays, it's really convergence of not only like the human side, but more critically, it's about the technology.
Absolutely, and on the point of convergence, when you think about the near future, right? If you had to imagine how teams will develop Formula One cars in the future, how do you think, or even imagine, how that technology will be moving forward?
I mean, it's progressing so quickly. Years after years, we can already see development, improvements. We are getting faster at making decisions, and as we all know, in Formula One, every millisecond counts. And real-time data and software allow us to adapt instantly, whether it's making the right call on tire strategy or adjusting how I approach a corner, so also on the driving side. And without that data, you are basically racing blind.
No, absolutely. I mean, I agree with what Charles says. I mean, ultimately, the car feels like an extension of ourselves, basically, when we're driving. But it's the data and the software that keeps us connected to the insights of the team. And so, as Charles was mentioning about tire wear, engine performance, the information real time is essential to allow us to stay competitive and keep the competitive edge.
Right. And I believe that there are no two races that are alike, right? Even in the same circuit, year after year, everything is different, everything changes. So how is technology and software particularly help you now in unexpected situations? Where do you feel it the most?
I mean, I've been racing a long time in Formula One, so, but I mean, technology has always been at the forefront of what we do within Formula One. But I mean, the emphasis just gets greater and greater each year. It's not solely down to the driver's ability or the mechanics, working with a raw machine. Today, it's so much more advanced. It's really the fusion of the cutting edge technology, mechanics, the driver's input. But the biggest challenge is really the level of data that we now rely on, fully understanding it, optimizing it, every single millisecond counts, and the car is feeding back information constantly. So understanding that and interpreting it the right way and making changes both back at the factory then also at the track is essential.
Yeah, exactly. As Louis said, we have so much data now to analyze, and our sport is also so interesting in a way because you've got a huge amount of data that needs to be understood properly, because as a driver you've got also your personal feeling of how you want a car, and there it's all about looking at the data, understanding what you like of it, and use it in your own benefit as a team and as a driver.
Right. And if you could build a secure piece of software or an application for yourself to improve in the future the way that you perform or your skills, what would it be? What would that application look like? What is the dream application for a Formula One driver?
Well, I mean, it would probably be something where you're able to, well, I guess it would be cheating to be able to see what's up ahead. So to already like anticipate the weather, know exactly what lap you have to stop. Something like that could be really helpful with this strategy.
This and maybe a software which can simulate the perfect lap with the limits of our cars, because in our sport it's all about comparing. As soon as I get out of the car, I'll look at Lewis's data, try to compare what's possible, where is he faster, what can I do better in terms of driving. If tomorrow we have the perfect data on exactly what's the limit of the car, that would be super interesting.
Super. That's a great imagination on how the software can develop in the future. Now, the last question. So let's go back to your early days, right? What is the first application of software that you remember, all the way from your karting days till now? And the one that not just you remember, but the one that you think like, wow, this is really helpful from anything, from simulation software to whatever you use today.
Wow, for me it was computer games. It was Nintendo. Right. The first Nintendo that ever came out. I mean, you wouldn't have known that one, but the first bit of actual software that I had to really work with was in go-karts, and we used to have this little device on the steering wheel that used to tell you the RPM and the temperature of the engine, and that was, and we also had a data download. So I remember we had this huge chunky laptop back then.
Already in karting?
Yeah, in karting. Yeah, it was. It was from very early on. It was like I was 10, and that was the first time I saw data. So yeah, you weren't born yet.
No, but I honestly didn't really. Back then, I remember in karting there was some kind of data, but for me it was very difficult to take anything out of it because the technology wasn't what it is today, and so there was some lags, and sometimes you couldn't really rely on what you were seeing. But I remember when I first tested in a single-seater, and there all the data was a lot more advanced, and that was incredible. I could finally, in all your karting days, you are just relying on your feeling, which is a good way to learn, but then to verify what you are changing in the very last details, data is so incredibly important. And I remember, that day in a single-seater when I first had my data and all the details I could change was super interesting.
Absolutely amazing. Well, from HCLSoftware, we thank you so much for this interview. This was very, very exciting, and all the best for this upcoming season, and we hope to see 1-2 Ferrari by the end of the year. Thank you so much.
Gracias.